Hi everybody, welcome to language friendly classroom tips that I'm going to be releasing and putting onto the staff portal so that everyone can access it. Today we're going to be focusing on central auditory processing disorder and how to assist the children in the classroom in terms of access to the language that you use. So, what is central auditory processing disorder? Well, it's actually a buzz term that's used a lot and more in schools, but it's actually a very misunderstood concept. What does it refer to? Well, it's caused by a breakdown or delay in development of the auditory nerve pathway going from the cochlea in the ear all the way to the temporal cortex or the side portion of your brain. And breakdown that occurs anywhere along this pathway will cause a collection of auditory or central auditory processing symptoms. And these symptoms will have huge implications in terms of the student's ability to manage with language, both spoken and written, and literacy within the classroom. Approximately 2 to 7% of the population have central auditory processing disorder. These levels are actually increasing in number on a yearly basis, and it's particularly higher in terms of prevalence in children from lower socioeconomic backgrounds. Because these children usually their language and literacy skills are weak, but not that weak, these are often children that are not verified. So because there's no funding, they're the children that really require a lot of support within the classroom in order to cope with the demands of the curriculum. Right, there are actually, believe it or not, 3 different types of central auditory processing disorder. And each type of central auditory processing disorder has a collection of symptoms that are quite different from another. And it's important to sort of be aware of which children in your class might have it so that you can support them accordingly. The first kind of auditory processing disorder is an association deficit or a language deficit in central auditory processing disorder, and it actually gives rise to specific language impairment and is thought to be an underlying cause of this, which are your language impaired children, your general language impaired children in terms of development in the classroom. The next type you've got is an auditory decoding deficit. These are the children who struggle to listen in less than ideal listening environments, and it's usually associated with chronic middle ear infections or ADHD, but this will be discussed in further detail later on. And the last kind, which is the most severe kind of CAPD, is an integrative deficit, and these are actually children that can mimic autistic spectrum disorder or ASD. Today, we're going to talk and focus on an association deficit, a language deficit, because these are the kiddies or the students that will present most often in your classroom. And we're going to talk about today how to support them in terms of the oral language. So, what is an association deficit? It's actually, in other words, it's information overload children, or they are information overload children, which means that they can cope with simple, short sentences and instructions, but as soon as sentences or instructions are much lengthier or presented in a grammatically complex way, these children will really struggle to understand what is being said. So typically in your prep and your sort of early years, these are the children when you say point to the blue triangle, they can point to the blue triangle. You say point to the green pen, they can point to the green pen, but if you say point to the blue triangle and the green pen, they just can't do it. They are lost because there was just too much information. Okay, what does it cause? It causes delays in terms of development of understanding complex grammar. So these children will present with receptive language delays, particularly relating to their grammatical complexity, or they also, because they don't understand grammatical language, they then don't develop this ability to use it correctly. So their sentence structure, they might have quite good vocabulary, but their sentence structure in terms of their grammar is very limited and very simple. And ultimately it can give rise to specific language impairments. In terms of dealing with reading comprehension or understanding written text, again, information overload, classic information overload. If you give them a text with loads of information, they'll struggle to get past the few lines and understand and recall what they have read. But they do actually usually read quite fluently, these children. They just struggle to read for meaning. And in terms of their written language, these children will struggle to write in full sentences in their essay formats, and when they're answering questions and reading comprehensions, they're your kids that typically really struggle to answer in a full sentence, and they prefer to answer in sort of one words or single words. Okay, so oral language tips. How can we help these children with language CAPD or specific language impairment difficulties when we're talking to them in the classroom? What can we do? Well, first and foremost, you have to keep your sentences as short and as simple as possible. Okay? If your sentences become long and grammatically complex, they're going to lose you, and they will be stuck at step 2 and you'll be on step 10. So keep your sentences and your instructions short and simple. So, if I was a biology teacher and a class came in, that's the wrong way to give a simple instruction would be, "Hi class, right, welcome to biology. I hope you've had a good day thus far. I'd like you to get your biology textbooks out and turn to page 37. Look at the first paragraph, read it for me, and when you're finished, look up at me." That is way too much information, way too long sentences, and the child is going to look at you and think, "Oh my gosh, I just got the bit about being welcome to biology." So, you would rather say it like, "Hi class, welcome to bio. What I'd like you to do today is get out your bio textbook. Once you've done that, turn to page 37. Then I would like you to read the first paragraph. When you are finished reading it, look at me and wait for the next instruction." And hopefully a good way to assist in the oral language would be to couple that instruction with a visual aid, which I will talk to you about now in a couple of minutes. Okay, once you have finished giving that instruction, give them about 5 or 6 seconds to process it, because very often these children with oral language difficulties take time to process and understand information, up to 7 seconds in fact, whereas your normal children will take about 2 or 3 seconds. So give them time. Then look at them and say, has everybody understood what I've said? If they haven't, you repeat it in exactly the same short and simple manner that you did the first time. If you are, however, aware that your instructions may have been too long or too complex in nature, it would then be worthwhile to rephrase your instruction in a shorter and simpler manner so that every child can understand it. And then, when you are talking to the children and giving the instructions, try to couple everything that you are doing with a visual cue. Okay, now visual cues, keywords are great in the bullet point form, but I find that children still can often get lost with these. Particularly your specific language impairment and CAPD children, because they struggle with organization of thoughts and how different vocabularies and different subjects go together with one another or are associated with one another. We call this auditory association. So I find the nicest way to actually enable the children to organize their thoughts is to use a mind map. So here I've got a mind map that you could put on the whiteboard. I've used body functions in biology, and let's just say you've got the biology teacher. She's introducing her learning intention, which is body functions. She's going to first discuss with the class what are the types of body functions that you get. So your circulatory, your respiratory, your sense organs, your muscular, and your digestive. And then what she's going to do is she's going to take each section. So let's say she's working on circulation, and she's going to try and link it to the vocabulary associated to the vocabulary that the child already may know on circulation. So you can talk about, the child can talk about anything to do with circulation, to do with electricity, to do with people circulating, to do with water circulation. And by linking the topic that the teacher is talking about with previous knowledge or experience that the child has, this will enable the child to much better understand the content of the lesson. After you've made this association, you can then go and talk about the particulars of the circulatory system. So right, underneath your circulatory system on your mind map, you're then going to talk about, okay, part of that is the heart, we've got the blood, and we've got our vessels. Our vessels are our arteries, our veins, and our capillaries. And by linking this together, you're not only going to be able to enable your language impaired child to keep up with what is being said, but you're also going to facilitate better understanding of how everything is related, and you're going to be drawing on their own experiences to understand the information. Right, thank you so much. That's the end of our oral language lesson for today with regards to an association or language impairment with central auditory processing disorder. In the next session, I'm going to talk to you about how to support these learners in terms of simple written language modifications. Thank you so much. Have a good week. Bye.